channel. Today's video is my first spring DIY video for the year, and I'll be sharing 2 spring farmhouse style projects that are both budget friendly and really easy to do. So if you're looking for some new spring DIYs, then I really think that you're gonna love these. If you do, please give this video a thumbs up and share it. It really helps out my channel. And if you're not subscribed, I hope that you consider subscribing. And please hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of my future videos. If you guys want to see both of the projects that I created, then please keep watching. For DIY number 1, I'll be making a hanging flower box. And for this project, I'll be using 4 7-inch by 3.5-inch pieces of wood that came in this bag of wood from Hobby Lobby, a 2.5-inch terracotta pot from Dollar Tree, spring stems from Michaels, Waverly chalk paint in plaster and also in the color hazelnut, folk art chalk paint in castle, paintbrushes, a hammer. I'll be using 8 nails, a drill, my hot glue gun, floral foam from Dollar Tree, and some jute. For this project, I started out by painting all 4 of my 7-inch by 3.5-inch pieces of wood with my chalk paint in the color Castle, and I did paint all of the sides of my pieces of wood since you're going to be able to see them for this project, but I did only have to do 1 coat of this paint. Once that paint has completely dried, I'm then going in with my Waverly chalk paint in the color hazelnut, and I'm using my Dollar Tree stencil brush to dry brush this color right over top of that castle color, and I did that on all 4 pieces of wood. And then I added a little bit of my Java colored chalk paint around mainly the edges of my pieces of wood, but I did do a little bit on the flat surface as well. And I'm just dry brushing that on using my Dollar Tree stencil brush. This is just really going to add a more rustic look to all of my pieces of wood. Next, I'm painting my terracotta pot with my chalk paint in the color plaster, and I only did 1 coat of this paint, but I did take the tag off of the bottom and paint the bottom. Since it's going to be lifted, you'll be able to see the bottom of this pot, and then I did a little bit on the inside as well. Once that paint dried, then I went in with the Java colored paint and just dry brushed that right over top again to give this pot a rustic look. Next, I'm assembling my box and attaching all of my wood. I'm placing hot glue in the corner of my bottom wood piece and then placing another piece of wood standing vertical on top of that glue and then just holding it into place until the glue has completely dried. I'm continuing that same step for the other side, and once I have those 2 attached, then I can attach my very top piece of wood. I'm placing hot glue on the 2 ends of the standing pieces of wood and then placing my last piece of wood right on top of the glue to form my box. To make sure everything stays nice and secure and put together, I'm adding 2 nails on each side of my box. I basically just used the hot glue to hold everything together until I could nail it together. You could use E6000 or wood glue if you wanted, but I would definitely suggest nailing everything together as well, just to make sure that everything stays in place and put together. I'm now measuring to see where the center of the top of my box is. I am going to be drilling a hole, so I wanted to make sure that I had everything centered before I start drilling. Next, I'm drilling a hole right in the center of my box to get it prepped for adding the jute through it later. And now back to my pot. I'm attaching some jute. I'm using hot glue right on the pot and then putting the jute over that to hold all of the jute in place. And I'm continuing that same step over and over again until I have my jute wrapped around the pot, probably like 7 or 8 times. I needed this to be really secure because I am going to be hanging the pot from the jute. Now, I want 2 pieces of jute, which is the 1 strand that I'm using now. I want the 2 ends of that jute to be going in one direction, like on the right side. And now I'm using another piece of jute that I'm attaching, and I'm wrapping that around several times, and then I'm having those 2 end strands facing the opposite direction, so those would be on the left hand side. Now I'm using the 2 strands on each side to hold up my pot going through the hole that I put into my box. As you can see here, I'm stringing the ends of my jute right through that drilled hole in the top of my box. Once I have my jute through, then I'm just seeing how long I want my pot to be hanging. And once I have that all set into place, I'm tying off a knot at the top of my jute. And I did do a double knot just to make sure that everything stayed in place. Next, I'm cutting some of these eucalyptus stems that I picked up from Walmart. Originally, I was just going to use one type of flower, but I ended up going with these as well. And then I'm cutting down some of this floral foam to fit inside of my pot, and I'm just placing that foam right in the center. And for the last step, I'm placing some of those eucalyptus stems that I cut down right into the floral foam. And I decided to use a second flower. I'm using some of these spring florals that I picked up from Michael's as well. I'm just cutting those stems down a little bit with some pliers, and then I'm placing the stems of those right into the floral foam like I did with the eucalyptus. And I really love the way that these two flowers look together. Here's my hanging flower box all finished. I love how this one turned out. And what's great about this one is you can switch out the florals that are in the pot to go with whatever season it is. Now moving on to the second DIY, I'll be making a flower market sign. For this one, I used a Valentine's Day sign from Dollar Tree, Waverly chalk paint in the colors plaster and also in moss, folk art chalk paint in Java, paintbrushes, my hot glue gun, jute, burlap ribbon from Walmart, and a fresh flower market image that I created on my computer and printed onto wax paper. I'll have the printable to this linked down below. For this project, I'm using the back of this Dollar Tree Valentine's Day sign, and I started by painting the back of the sign with my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster. And I did do 2 coats of this paint just to make sure that everything was nice and covered. Once this paint has completely dried, I'm then going in with my Java colored paint, and I'm using my Dollar Tree stencil brush to dry brush this color around all of the edges of the sign. And I did a little bit on the center as well, but mainly focused that color on the edges. And then once I had that color on, I went in with my moss colored chalk paint and dry brushed that around all of the edges. But I used this color mainly on the center. I really wanted this to have a little bit of a green hint to it, and I really love the way that it turned out. Next, I'm centering my fresh flower market image onto my sign. Then I'm taking an old gift card and I'm pressing the ink for all of my words into the surface of my sign. You want to make sure that you're holding the wax paper really tight because you don't want it to move around. It'll smudge your ink. Then I'm taking the end of a paintbrush and I'm going over each letter for my words, kind of like if you were writing over the words. This is going to press the ink into the surface of the sign even more. If you guys would like the printable for this sign, I will have it linked down in the description box. And if you're wanting to see a more in-depth tutorial on wax paper transfers, I will have my video linked down in the description box on that as well. After I have all of the ink pressed really well into the surface of my sign, I'm very slowly peeling off the wax paper. I left some large spaces between the words seeds, stems, and blooms. So here I'm taking a small paintbrush and painting dots in between those words with my ink colored chalk paint. Next, I'm forming my bow to go on my sign. I'm cutting out a large piece of this burlap ribbon. It was about 35 inches in length. I'm then forming 2 loops, one on the right side, one on the left. I'm then cinching the loops in towards the bottom, and then I'm taking one of the loops, putting it over top of the other loop, and then pulling that through the little hole at the bottom, kind of like you would be tying your shoe. Once I have the bow all made, I'm just fluffing up each side of the loop to form my bow. And for the tails of my bow, I'm just cutting them both in a diagonal shape. And now I'm attaching my bow to my sign. I'm placing hot glue on the back of the bow and then just pressing the bow on the top of my sign. And I really wanted to add some flowers, so here I'm cutting these spring florals off of their stems, and I picked these ones up from Michael's, and then I'm just hot gluing them around and underneath the top portion of my bow. For the last step, I'm taking 5 strands of jute and I'm placing them on the bottom of my sign where I want them. Then I'm flipping the sign over and then just hot gluing those ends of the jute along the back side to hold everything into place. Here is my fresh flower market sign all finished. This project was so inexpensive to do and I just love how everything came together. I really hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and share it. If you're not subscribed, I hope that you would consider subscribing. Be sure to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of my future videos. I have a lot of new spring DIYs coming your way. And I would love it if you would go follow me over on Instagram as well. Thank you so much for watching.